Revealed, the sinister, unexplained rules of the haunted warehouse night shift I just started. Claire's first night in the old textile factory warehouse felt like stepping into a horror movie. As soon as the clock struck 10, the heavy air shifted, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. The creaking machinery echoed like the distant memories of the souls trapped within its rusted walls. Shadows flickered just beyond her peripheral vision, each whisper sounding like a warning caught in a gust of wind. Underneath it all, she felt the pulse of some dark history throbbing violently, striving to break free. Just get through the shift, she muttered to herself, trying to dissolve the sweat creeping down her spine. After all, she needed this job. A single mom with bills piling up and a daughter to care for in a neighborhood where danger lurked like a predatory animal. Who would she be if the shadows consumed her? But those first few hours, the flickering light sent shivers crawling up her arms and gnawed at her sanity. One of her co-workers, a rugged old man with wild, knowing eyes, caught her gaze. He leaned closer, and his breath smelled like the ashes of forgotten dreams. "You hear the whispers?" he asked, his voice low and gravelly, making Claire's skin crawl. "They've got rules here, kid. Don't break 'em." When she pressed for details, he merely shook his head, casting nervous glances around the room as if the shadows cluttering the corners had ears. Before she could ask more, a chill swept through the room, freezing her heart in place. The walls seemed to breathe in and out, subtly shifting as if alive. She glanced at the windows, their cracked pieces resembling eyes, watching her every move. The noise soldered into an unsettling rhythm, moving, stretching, whispering tales of those who had gone before. "Hey, before we continue," she said, suddenly shaken, "I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Her voice trembled slightly, an attempt to mask the growing dread coursing through her veins. But before she could regain her composure, a familiar face emerged from the darkness, her ex-husband, his expression twisted like the shadows around him. "Claire, I need to see our daughter," he pleaded, and her heart sank. He looked desperate, but she could sense something sinister lurking beneath his pitiful words. The warehouse loomed large behind him, filled with secrets and the weight of history, the kind that made her body quiver with apprehension. She could feel the echoing whispers amplifying, teasing as they brushed against her mind. The walls felt closer now, insistent on revealing their grim truths. Claire's instincts screamed as she clutched the doorframe, cringing as if the walls would seal her in with the chaos. This place wasn't just a job, it was a labyrinth of buried horrors that begged to be uncovered. As her unease swelled, she wondered if her ex was the real threat or if it was the very space around her, hungry and alive, eager to drag her into its murky depths. With every tick of the clock, Claire sensed the warehouse shifting, absorbing her fear. How many had come here and never returned? Could she protect her daughter from the dangers that lurked within these decaying walls and the battered soul standing before her? Just as the midnight bell tolled, the warehouse pulsed, a hungry beast anticipating the next move. The night was far from over, and Claire was caught in the grip of an unseen terror, where every whisper tugged at the fabric of her sanity. The moment Claire's eyes locked with her ex-husband, dread seized her throat, rendering her speechless. The shadows twisting around him painted his figure in a distorted light, deepening the hollowness in his gaze. "You're not supposed to be here," she shouted, her voice cutting through the heavy air like a knife, but the echoes quickly swallowed her words. "Please, Claire. I need to talk," he insisted, stepping forward, hands outstretched in a gesture that stirred a deep-seated fear within her. The darkness behind him seemed to thicken, almost as if the warehouse was insisting he stay, a dark passenger lurking on her doorstep. "No. Get away from me." Panic clawed at her chest. Claire's instincts battled against the growing shadows in her mind. Why now? After everything they'd been through, why risk showing up here? What kind of trap was this? Something's wrong with our daughter. He continued, his tone rising in pitch, pressed by an unseen urgency. Claire felt as if she were teetering on the edge of a cliff. In the distance, the machinery groaned, a low echo that mirrored her rising fear. It felt as if the entire warehouse had ears hungry for whispers, eager for chaos. Suddenly, she heard it, the faint murmurs grew louder, almost mocking her, filling the space between her and him with sinister laughter. The shadows danced, weaving a thick veil that threatened to engulf her. She could almost feel their icy claws around her ankles, keeping her anchored to the ground. Claire, don't listen to them. The old man's words echoed back in her mind, creating a whirlpool of doubt and tension. Are you even serious? She yelled, her voice cracking. You want to talk about her? After what you did? The shadows crept closer, twisting her words, reflecting the turmoil inside. The warehouse felt alive, pulsating, exhaling her dread back at her. In the haze of her emotion, the lights flickered above, casting an eerie rhythm across the dilapidated walls. For a moment, Claire saw shapes within the blinking darkness, faces, eyes wide with despair, reaching out like the lost souls of the warehouse, pleading for release. The terror was seeping into her consciousness, threatening to drown her in the legacy of this place. Please, he pressed harder, desperation spilling into his voice. They're making her sick and I can't lose her. Sick. Visions of her daughter, pale and scared, played behind her eyes like a looped film. The decision twisted in her gut. She knew she should run, escape this nightmare. But was her daughter really in danger? Or was it just more manipulation? Just as she took a breath to respond, a sharp clang erupted from the depths of the warehouse, crashing through the deluge of her thoughts. The old machinery wheezed, its noise punctuated by a resonant scream, distant yet clear, a child's voice. Mommy! Claire's heart plummeted. The whispers transformed into a cacophony, layering her fears with each passing second. Stay with me. The shadows hissed. Join us. No. She shouted against the rising tide, backing away from her ex, the doorframe biting into her back. It was all too much. The warehouse craved something, and she could feel it, a pulsing hunger that mirrored the capture of her own sanity. With frantic energy, Claire tore her gaze from the man and darted deeper into the shadows of the building, driven by urgency and terror. She had to find her daughter. But with every step, the walls shifted, contracting as if playing some voyeuristic game with her fear. And just as Claire felt she was beginning to escape the pull of the darkness, she sensed it, a cold presence lurking, watching, waiting. What if this place wasn't just a job? What if she stumbled upon something worse than her past and her ex? There were rules, and she hadn't even begun to understand them. The night, cloaked in whispers and shadows, had only increased in terror, and she might already be too late. As she ran, she could feel her pulse pounding in time with the dreadful whispers, growing louder, drowning everything else out. Just when she thought she was free, a voice called out her daughter's song, sweet yet twisted, chiming from the darkness, serrated knife edges against her heart. Mommy, come play with me. Claire's breath hitched, and her feet froze. Was it really her daughter? Or had the warehouse snatched her voice? As despair clutched at her throat, one thing was certain: the night had more in store for her, and the true meaning of the rules had yet to reveal itself. How deep does this darkness run? And could she truly save her child before it was too late? Claire's heart raced as she stood frozen, the hair on the back of her neck prickling, a dark chill wrapping around her arms. The echo of her daughter's voice rang through the twisted metal and rotten wood of the warehouse, drawing her deeper into the labyrinth of shadows. She hesitated, every instinct screaming for her to run, yet the need to reach out to her daughter clawed at her insides. Mommy! The voice lingered, hauntingly sweet, like a siren's call. Was it truly her child, or a cruel trick of this accursed place? Stop it! Claire yelled, her voice cracking against the oppressive silence. The warehouse quivered with her emotions, the walls seeming to breathe, expanding and contracting as if alive. She took a cautious step forward, the heavy echo of her footsteps swallowed by the dark. "Mommy, please." The tone shifted, fear lacing the sweetness, a fragile thread pulling Claire further into the depths of her dread. Breath quickening, Claire continued down the corridor. The shadows seemed thicker here, coiling around her, blurring the line between reality and something far worse. She could feel them, eyes watching, hungry for her fear, eager to pull her in. The distant machinery moaned again, a reminder of the reality she was avoiding, but then a melodious laugh, a child's laugh, broke out, a shrill sound reverberating off the cold concrete. "Come play, Mommy." Time twisted and warped as she moved forward, chasing the sound that sent icy fingers down her spine. The image of her daughter, ghostly pale, flashed in her mind's eye. How could she keep her safe? As Claire rounded a corner, the shape of a small figure became visible in the half-light, nestled against a pillar. Her heart soared. "Emily!" she called out, throwing herself forward. But as she approached, clarity faded. The child turned, but it wasn't her daughter. The girl's face was obscured, shadowed eyes wide and shimmering, glowing with an eerie, unnatural light. There was something wrong with her smile, too wide, too sharp. The girl's voice turned sharp, transforming. "You shouldn't have come here." Panic flooded Claire's veins. "Where's Emily?" she shouted, scrambling back as dread sank like a stone in her gut. "Shoo. She's playing," the girl said, and a sinister giggle followed. "Just like I did. Your game is over." Claire's voice trembled but filled with ferocity. She wouldn't be a puppet in whatever nightmare this was. With renewed determination, she turned and raced back the way she came, but then beams of light blinked erratically, almost mocking her escape. "Stay with us," echoed the terrible whispers again, wrapping around her like barbed wire. Claire felt the heat rising in her chest. She needed to find Emily. She couldn't let this darkness steal her away, didn't want to end up another lost soul in this twisted place. "No!" she screamed, dashing blindly, the shadows dancing at her heels, eager to close the gap. The laughter echoed all around, the voices of the past merging with the present. "Join us, join us." The warehouse began to spin, walls collapsing in, warping her sense of direction. Claire's breath came in labored gasps. Every heart-stopping second felt like an eternity. She could still hear the little girl's laughter, and with it, the haunting reminder of untold horrors trapped within these walls. Her eyes darted, searching for a glimpse of her daughter, praying that she hadn't become one of them. A flicker of light, then darkness consumed the space again. It felt like a tightening noose. Just when she thought she could escape, she collided with something cold and hard. As her fingers brushed against the surface, she realized it was a door. With shaking hands, Claire tried to push it open. It wouldn't budge. Panic rose again. She was trapped. And then she heard it. Soft, almost a whisper. "Mommy, why did you leave me?" Claire's heart froze. She knew that voice. "Emily!" she gasped, pounding on the door as the shadows clawed at her, desperate to drag her back. "I'm coming." But even as she shouted, the questions spiraled through her mind. What was waiting on the other side? What would she find if she managed to escape this prison of terror? The pounding grew louder, echoing ominously through the warehouse. Unearthly noises erupted, thudding against the door, pressing her against the cold surface. "Let me out!" she screamed, but the darkness only laughed. Was it too late? Did the shadows already have Emily? In her heart, Claire knew that whatever awaited her in the depths of this nightmare would test every fiber of her being. Could she confront the darkness, or would she become another voice lost in the echoes of the warehouse? The air thickened, and she could feel that something was drawing near, eager for her surrender. Claire gritted her teeth and readied herself. Whatever waited on the other side, it would not take her down without a fight. But just as she steeled herself for whatever fate awaited her, a final chilling command drifted from the shadows: "Stay forever." Was there any hope left? Would she emerge alive or become another lost story echoing through the haunted warehouse night? The door jerked violently as a heavy force slammed against it from the other side. Claire stumbled backward, desperate to catch her breath. The shadows convulsed like living nightmares, crushing in from all sides. "Let me out!" She screamed again, panic lapping at her like a feral beast. The laughter echoed, hollow and malicious, taunting her from all directions. She felt a cold dread coil tighter around her heart. In this place, escape felt hopeless. Just then, she noticed a slight gleam at the edge of her vision, a gap, just small enough for fingers to pry into. Claire rushed back to the door, ignoring the clamoring shadows eager to reclaim her focus. With her raw nerves burning, she turned her shoulder against the chill of the cold steel and pushed. The door creaked, and suddenly it shifted, slowly biting back against the darkness. Hope surged through her veins, but the weight of the warehouse pushed down harder. Every muscle in her body screamed as she forced it open inch by inch. The hinges protested, a terrible wail that trailed into the dark room beyond. In a flash, she slipped through the gap, stumbling into the hallway outside. The walls felt alive, moving with an unsettling pulse, the flickering lights illuminating scenes of long-lost despair. Desperation flooded her as she struggled to focus her spinning mind. She had to find her daughter. She had to. As she steadied herself, she caught sight of a shadow darting down the corridor. Emily. Her feet found purpose in the urgency of movement. Emily. Claire called, her voice desperate yet strained. But the only answer was silence filling the gaps where her daughter's laughter should have been. The chill blanketed her again as she chased the figure. It disappeared around a corner, and Claire turned, racing after it without hesitation. The corridor twisted, turning her sense of direction into an enemy. Every step she took echoed back at her, a stark reminder that the shadows were closing in again, and then, she saw it. A door. This one was ajar, a slant of muted light spilling into the space around her. Without thinking, she lunged forward, heart pounding fiercely in her chest. But just as she reached the threshold, a horrible crash erupted. A wall of darkness surged in behind her, the fluorescent lights overhead buzzing and flickering with rage. Claire hesitated as another sinister giggle rippled through the air. "Don't run, Mommy. You'll only tire yourself." Rage and fear battled within her. "I'm coming for my daughter. I want to let you take her," she shouted, driven by a feral instinct to protect. Through the thin crack of light, she could see movement, a figure, maybe small enough to be Emily, but the shadows didn't allow her to drift too near. They swirled closer, creeping into her mind, whispering insidious thoughts. "What if she doesn't want you?" The voices hissed, forming a cacophony of doubt and fear. "Maybe she likes it here forever." That thought wedged itself painfully inside her. Claire pressed a trembling hand to her mouth, stifling the sob that threatened to break free. Every instinct told her to flee, but every fiber of her being screamed to stay. Stay with Emily. The door loomed before her as the shadows coiled back, taunting, retreating, as if expecting her next move. Claire closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and pushed the door open wider. Inside was another corridor, dimly lit, but undeniably alive. The walls pulsed, breathing with a rhythm, a heartbeat that drummed to the tempo of her fear. The air thickened, and for a moment, silence fell heavy around her. Then she heard it again, clearer now, "Mommy. Come play." The voice was so close, but it still felt like a mirage. Claire stepped into the disorienting glow, her resolve faltering at the sound. What awaited her? What had taken hold of Emily's spirit? Claire clenched her fists, ready to battle whatever lay ahead. She had to find Emily before that innocent voice turned into something worse. But as she ventured deeper, a chilling realization pierced through her heart. Each step brought a new echo, a memory twisting back against her. At the far end, a shadow detached from the wall, coalescing into the form of the little girl with bright, sparkling eyes but a smile wide enough to cut through the dark. "Will you stay and play with us, Mommy?" That smile sent a new wave of dread coursing through Claire, the realization striking like lightning. Who were us? How many had answered the call before her? And what price would she have to pay to walk back into the light? Just as the little figure reached out, something dark and formless stirred, hovering just behind its innocent visage. "Come play forever," the shadow whispered. Claire's heart seized. Was escape even an option now? In that chilling moment, she had to choose. Would she fight to save her daughter, or would she be swallowed into the darkness herself? The air trembled with anticipation as a new threat crept toward her, echoing the very fears clawing at her mind. Time was running out. Would she find Emily, or would she lose everything in this twisted game? The darkness hungered for her, and Claire's choices were about to bring about horrors she couldn't begin to fathom. Claire's thoughts whirled chaotically as the shadow of her daughter flickered before her, a ghostly vision trapped in an abyss of malevolence. Emily! She cried out, but the name felt leaden, the sound swallowed by the oppressive air. Those bright eyes reflected a naive innocence, too innocent for the darkness that surrounded them. "Will you play?" The shadow urged again, extending a hand, its joyful tone starkly contrasting the icy dread coiling around Claire's gut. Every instinct within her screamed that this was wrong, that this was a trap shaped to ensnare the vulnerable. "Emily, you have to come back to me," Claire shouted, taking a tentative step forward, desperate to reach what she believed was her child, but both the girl and the dark cloud fluttered just out of reach, teasingly still. "We have fun here," the child cooed, the shadows behind her writhing with delight. With each passing heartbeat, Claire felt the pull of the shadows intensify. It was as if the very walls around her leaned in to listen, the heartbeat of the building echoing with a malicious rhythm. She could feel the darkness like a thick fog, and each moment spent in this twisted space numbed her resolve. In the haze of her despair, fragments of her life flickered like broken glass in her mind, sharp and painful. She could see Emily's first steps, hear her daughter's laughter, and remember her sweet, sleepy face at bedtime. This wasn't the life she imagined. This was how her story was supposed to end. "Please, Emily," Claire begged, her voice trembling. "I'm not leaving you here. We can go home together." The girl's smile faltered for the briefest moment, then shifted into something sharper. "But mommy, I'm happy here." The shadows surged, wrapping around Claire's ankles like icy chains, pulling her deeper into their suffocating embrace. The whispers grew louder, a rush of hissing voices. "You've lost her, Claire. Embrace your fate." "No!" she screamed, yanking her leg free from the shadow's grip, her eyes scanning for an escape, a flicker of light, anything that could guide her back to her reality. Suddenly, Emily's form flickered again, a flash of longing pain cutting through the sinister joy enshrined in the whispers. "Mommy, I want to play. I want you to stay." "No." Claire snapped back, her heart pounding fiercely against her ribs. She had to fight back. She had to escape this warped reality. Summoning all her will, Claire turned from the seductive call of darkness and sprinted down the corridor that seemed to breathe in sync with her panic. The walls closed in. The laughter morphed into wails, howling at her failure, shrieking accusations. "Run faster." Out of the corner of her eye, the flickering light of another door caught her attention. This time she didn't hesitate to push against it, willfully breaking its hold. It swung open with an agonizing creak, revealing a room bathed in white, fluorescent light. Claire stumbled inside, gasping as she caught her breath, the oppressive weight of the shadow just outside. The moment she crossed the threshold, the wails turned to an echoing frenzy. They wanted her back. The shadows shrieked her name like it was a curse. Inside the light, the atmosphere felt paradoxical, safe yet filled with an eerie stillness. It was barren yet filled with echoes. Desks haltingly moved out of sight, objects whispering of a time long gone, but the brightness was a thin veil against the encroaching dark. "Stay, Mommy." The child's voice was now muffled, hauntingly distant, like a fading star in a suffocating universe. Each word was a thread pulling her back. Without warning, the light flickered, and in those fleeting moments of uncertainty, Claire glimpsed images children playing, a laughter-filled park, a warm embrace each more terrifyingly familiar than the last. The shadows had woven these memories into the light, twisting her longing into a weapon. Just one game, Mommy, they murmured softly, a backlit deception wrapping her in a deceptive cocoon. You can have it all if you're willing to play. And there it was, a new dilemma, an unbearable question hovering above her. Could she truly rescue Emily, or was she destined to join her in the darkness? The door she entered from slammed shut behind her, cutting off any chance of retreat. The room darkened, shadows slithering across the walls, illuminated only by the flickering lights overhead. Will you stay and play with us forever? Claire's resolve began to waver as dread flooded her veins, memories bleeding into her reality. She felt herself being slowly pulled back into a nightmare. What price was she willing to pay? Just then, the lights flickered out completely, plunging her into an all-consuming darkness. Despair washed over her. In a horrifying heartbeat, she realized she could smell something acrid in the air, like rotting flesh. This game was changing. What did they want from her, and would she be the next addition to their twisted playtime? As the darkness surrounded her, Claire's breath quickened, drowning in the fear of a choice she hadn't wanted to make. The whisper of shadows wrapped around her as a new truth emerged from the void. Could she twist the game back upon itself, or would she become yet another lost parent in this house of horrors? Time was running out, and the darkness craved an answer. The darkness was alive, pulsing like a malignant heartbeat. Claire could feel it invade her mind, each whisper creeping into her thoughts, sowing seeds of doubt. Panic surged as the memories of Emily mingled with haunting specters, twisting sweet laughter into sinister echoes. Mommy, stay! It was relentless, as if the shadows were feeding off her fear. She stretched out a hand, though no one was there to receive it. I'm coming for you, Emily, she shouted, rallying her courage, but her voice trembled. Would that desperate hope be her downfall? The room felt like it was closing in. Claire stumbled backward, colliding with something cold and unyielding. She turned, her pulse racing, and felt the surface of an ancient desk covered in dust. In front of her, engraved letters cast dim shapes under the flickering lights. Playtime never ends. The sound of creaking echoed through the room, amplifying her dread. She backed away from the desk, her mind screaming that she needed to find a way out. But even her leg muscles felt sluggish, weighed down by the darkness that threatened to suffocate her. She focused on the flickering light, desperately searching for clarity among the murky void. If only she could find a window or a crack in the wall. The whispers escalated, voices intertwining into a maddening chorus, each syllable another dagger plunging into her heart. Mommy, why did you leave me? Emily's voice pierced through the chaos, dropping like lead in Claire's stomach. It was like a knife. Could she really bear to leave her child behind? Emily, I'm here, I'm trying. Claire yelled, her voice breaking, but she could offer no solace for the lost child of the shadows. Please, just let me help you. Suddenly, the shadows twitched along the walls, and Claire felt the walls pulse in terrible anticipation. Faceless forms lurked just beyond the light, shadows writhing and shifting, promising pain and despair if she stayed. Under the danger, Claire felt a surge of anger rise within her. She couldn't do this. You won't take my daughter. The very air thickened with malice, and Claire squeezed her eyes shut, ready to bolt. The shadows quivered, their advance checked by the bright, flickering lights. If only she could hold on to the light, shield herself from the darkness. She glanced back at the door where she came from, and it shimmered like a mirage tempting her relentlessly. Desperate for escape, she dashed toward it, the shadows shrieking a cacophony of cries behind her. You can't go. Stay. They wailed, but she pressed on, her heart a drum in her chest. Just when she thought she was near freedom, a cold gust swept through the room, dragging her down. The light dimmed dangerously low, flickering like a dying ember. Claire skidded to a halt, grappling anything to steady herself. The whispers shifted, becoming a single voice, smooth yet thick with venom. You can play, Claire, join us, and all will be well. She shuddered, the name hollow as it rolled from the shadow's lips. Emily is in our hands. Stay forever, and we can be a family again. No. Claire fought against the truth that sparked in her mind. Was this real? Could this be the way out? It sounded so sweet, the promise of her daughter back in her arms. But she felt the malevolence coiling around her, dark tendrils tugging at her ankles again. She tore her eyes from the door, but there, deep within the obscurity, another glint of light flickered momentarily, a different doorway, promising solace. But what awaited her there? With a determination bolstered by fear and resolve, she took a step toward the new flickering light, aware that at any moment, she could fall into the shadows. What lay beyond it? Would it lead to Emily, or would she be lost forever? The shadows lunged, and Claire's breath caught the next move could seal her fate. With her heart pounding, she sprinted toward that fleeting hope, ready to face whatever hellish game awaited in the depths of the unknown. Would she find her daughter, or would she unwittingly sign the death warrant for her soul? Claire barely dared to breathe as she raced toward the flickering light. The shadows howled behind her, their cries sharp and chilling, each one echoing her worst fears. The closer she got, the more her instincts screamed at her to turn back, but surrender wasn't an option. Emily's voice pulled her forward like a tether, thin but unbreakable. She burst through the threshold of the new doorway, her feet stumbling onto what felt like a cold, hard surface. An explosion of brightness engulfed her vision, making her squint and stagger. Once her eyes adjusted, she found herself standing in a vast room, filled with towering shelves lined with toys, old toy trains, stuffed animals, and dolls with cracked porcelain faces. It was a toy warehouse, but not a place you'd find in a children's magazine. Darkness seeped from every corner, yet the oppressive weight was lighter here, like someone had cracked a window in her mind. The toys blinked in the light, an eerie animation that sent a chill down her spine. "Are you happy now?" A voice emerged from the shadows, barely above a whisper, sent shivers running down her back. "What? Who is there?" Claire's voice quavered, her heart racing. She spun around, trying to locate the source. "Mommy." A soft voice, small and sweet. It was Emily. Claire's heart skipped, but dread erased her joy. "Emily?" Panic bubbled in her chest. "Where are you?" "Over here." The voice floated closer, inviting yet ominous. Claire moved, heart pounding, through the dusty aisles, her feet silent against the cold floor. Suddenly, the shelves began to rattle, the toys vibrating violently as if sensing something. There was palpable energy in the air, laughter morphing into sinister giggles. Claire shivered, eyes darting around desperately. "Mommy, come play." Emily's voice cried, but it had twisted, laden with something darker. In a haze of confusion, Claire looked ahead, and there she spotted a figure at the end of the aisle, just beyond the shadows. A little girl with golden hair, dressed in a faded pink dress, turned to face her. It was Emily, but her eyes too bright, too hollow. A twist of fear deepened in Claire's gut. "Emily," she whispered, reaching out, but the sudden sound of toys crashing to the ground interrupted her plea. The shelves trembled as if they were alive, shaking with malevolent laughter. "Playtime never ends," Emily echoed, but this time her voice was elongated, mocking. "Join us to see how it really works. Can you follow the rules?" "Rules?" Claire echoed, confused. "What do you mean?" But the child's smile widened, revealing exaggerated canine teeth, sharp and dripping. "There are always rules to playtime," she sang, her voice running like a cold mist through Claire's mind. The air pulsed again, a creeping unease wrapping around Claire like a thick, constricting blanket. The walls closed in with the weight of her own memories twisting into shapes of loathsome creatures. As more shadowy figures began to emerge from the darkness between the aisles, Claire understood that these weren't just toys, these were souls trapped in this eternal game. Each one watched with eager, empty eyes, waiting for her to make a choice. "Tell me!" Claire shouted, fighting against the rising tide of hopelessness. "What are the rules?" Their laughter filled the air, a cacophony that reverberated in her bones. "There's only one, Claire," the voice echoed ominously, "you must give to receive." The shadows surged, and Claire felt a rush of darkness attempting to pull her under. Panic surged once more as she realized the sacrifice they demanded could cost her more than she was willing to give. She backed away, frantically searching for a way out. What were the toys waiting for her to hand over? Who would she lose next? The realization dawned: she might be forced to make a choice, her daughter or her soul. Before she could react, an invisible force slammed into her chest, propelling her into the throng of shadows reaching for her. "Playtime awaits," they screeched, echoing Emily's haunting giggle. In that terrifying moment, Claire faced the darkness with one last desperate thought. Would she play their game, or would she risk losing everything? As the shadows clawed at her, one last whisper tickled her ear: "What will you give for the chance to see her smile again?" And just like that, the darkness surged, invading her mind. Claire gasped as the darkness enveloped her, a suffocating shroud looming over her senses. Shadows twisted, whispering promises of despair as they raked at her body. Time stuttered, a moment stretched to infinity. Emily's laughter spiraled around her, sweet yet so sinister, echoing off the walls like a taunt. "Join us," the voice sang, a clashing harmony of innocence and malice. Claire's heart drummed in her chest, frantic like a trapped bird, desperate for escape. The thought of Emily being lost to this dark void clawed at her. With shaky breaths, she forced herself to look around. The shelves were undulating, toys shifting and swaying as if teeming with life. An old wooden train, its paint chipped, rolled by her feet, mouths of little dolls open wide in silent screams, their eyes glimmering with hunger. The intensity of the shadows was almost tangible, pushing against her, pressing deeper into her mind. "What do you want?" she shouted, panic blurring her vision. "What do I have to give?" "Everything," the shadows hissed, coiling around her ankles, pulling tighter. "You may pay with joy, or you can trade with despair." Claire couldn't take it. The weight of their presence was suffocating. Images of twisted children danced in her mind, their laughter morphing into desperate cries. In that haunting moment, she saw her own daughter trapped among them, her golden hair mangled, her smile completely unreal, a permanent mask of dread. "Emily!" Claire screamed, holding out her hands, desperate for any connection. "I'll do anything. Just tell me how to save her." Emily's distorted face appeared at the end of the aisle, her smile wide and crooked, as if drawn by unseen hands. "You'll play the game, Mommy." The words dripped with a cruel sweetness. "But first you must decide who is worth saving." Claire stumbled back, realization striking her like a hot blade. The choice. It reverberated through her, a choice between her child's joy and her own soul. "If you save me," the girl said, her glow dimming to a sickly flicker, "you lose everything." "But if you lose me, everything." The shadows roared in unison, shrieking with glee at her torment, deepening the pit of despair that already clawed at Claire's heart. "No. This can't be all there is. There must be another way." Tears streamed down her cheeks as the cacophony of laughter intensified. "Play, Claire." It was Emily's voice again, bright yet insidious. "Let us make it fun." The toys began to swirl around her, moving in hypnotic patterns, drawing her in. Claire felt their grip tighten, the shadows seeping beneath her skin, clawing at her reality. The air thickened, a palpable fog of dread surrounding her, and every whisper seemed to parade her fears. Suddenly, she felt a glimmer of warmth, like a spark in the darkness. A voice emerged, softer than the others, amidst the chaos: "Remember, the game is always yours to win." With a surge of hope, Claire fought against the shadows, determined to reclaim her power. There had to be a way to outsmart them, a way to save Emily without succumbing to the darkness, but in her struggle, the laughter of the shadows crescendoed, a torrent of sound that shook her to her core. "Playtime is almost over." A twisted figure loomed behind her, dark and warped, a lurking terror waiting to strike, and just as Claire felt the tug-of-war between light and shadow take shape, everything went black. The last thing she heard was her daughter screaming, "Mommy! Don't leave me!" Then silence. What awaited Claire in this game of twisted rules and unending terror? How far would she sink into the shadows to save what mattered most? Claire's breath was gone. The blackness swallowed her whole, and just as she thought she might be able to scream, the air burst back to life. Shocking her senses awake, she tumbled onto a cold, hard floor that felt both unfamiliar and unwelcoming. Light pierced through the veil of darkness, blinding her momentarily. She blinked, eyes adjusting, and found herself in a dim warehouse, the remnants of her nightmare clinging to her like a second skin. Boxes lay strewn about, cluttered with dust and cobwebs, the remnants of something long forgotten. The laughter, that shrill and haunting echo, was gone, replaced by silence so deep it felt wrong. "Emily!" Claire shouted, her voice trembling, fighting against the tightness in her throat. "Emily!" No answer came but the distant creak of metal, a rusted wheel on a forgotten shelf. Panic surged anew. Was this another part of the game? Had she truly returned from the shadows, or was this merely a continuation of her torment? She struggled to her feet, legs shaky beneath her. The remnants of the toys still lurked in her mind, their staring eyes, the grasping hands. What had they wanted with her? "Remember, the game is always yours to win." The voice echoed, a chilling reminder of the choice looming over her. She looked around, every corner of the warehouse draped in a layer of dread. The shadows lingered at the edges of her vision, flickering like candle flames. Claire's heart raced. Could the game be over? Or was it just beginning? Moving cautiously, she approached an old wooden crate. It loomed like a tombstone, ominous and inviting. Swallowing hard, she pried open a creaky lid, revealing a jumble of forgotten toys, the same dolls with frozen, painted smiles. One, a porcelain figure, stared back at her with an eerie poise, as if she had a secret to share. Then she noticed it, a small note tucked beside the doll. With trembling fingers, she retrieved it, scanning the faded words. "Find the truth to save the lost." Claire felt cold sweat trickle down her spine. Wasn't this what she had feared? Hadn't the shadows sensed her desperation? Outside the crate, the shadows thickened, swirling in bad-tempered arcs. The laughter returned, taunting and relentless. The moment felt like hanging over a cliff, the ground muddied below. What truth could redeem her? What game awaited her? Turning away from the crate, Claire stumbled backwards, and fell into something soft yet tangible, an assortment of children's clothes strewn across the floor. They smelled of decay and fear, laced with memories of joy now turned sour. "Mommy?" A small voice, faint yet clear, drifted from a stack of fabric. Claire's heart skipped. "Emily? Don't leave me, Mommy." The voice was accompanied by a sob that tore through Claire's resolve. That gut-wrenching sound stirred every maternal instinct, propelling her forward. She reached for the pile, frantically tossing aside the clothes, longing for her daughter. "Emily! Where are you?" But only silence answered, and with it came a choke of despair. Suddenly, a chill gust swept through the warehouse, extinguishing what little warmth remained in her bones. The shadows tightened, ushering her to face a new horror. "Find the truth," they hissed, the walls pressing in, the fabric of the night thickening. Claire took a step back, scanning the room. Could the truth lie within the darkness itself? What had she missed? What did it mean to play this game? As she wrestled with the uncertainty, the warehouse doors flung open violently, revealing an otherworldly glow outside. Figures, spectral and glittering, emerged, their faces twisted in silent pleas of desperation. Suddenly, hundreds of voices surged, swelling around her, a cacophony urging her to join them. In that heart-stopping moment, Claire understood. The game wasn't merely hers to win, it was about survival. "Mommy! Please!" A fresh wave of tears pushed through the shadows, but she didn't know where to turn, whom to trust. Claire steadied herself, poised between two worlds, the living and the lost. Each choice weighed heavy as figures beckoned her with bony fingers. Shadows danced, whispering their secrets, their demands. Could she face the truth in a world that thrived on despair? As the walls began to pulse, encroaching on her very being, Claire took a deep breath and stepped toward the glowing portal. In that breath hung a question: what was waiting for her on the other side? And what price would she have to pay to rescue Emily from the depths of eternal darkness? The air felt electric as Claire stepped through the glowing portal. She could almost hear her heart pounding in tune with the rapid thrumming of the shadows, an incessant reminder that time was slipping away. Bright light enveloped her, illuminating a vast expanse. Once again, she found herself standing in an unfamiliar place, an eerie playground, illuminated by the glow of a waning moon. The whispers of the shadows faded to a dull roar, yet their presence still lingered, a haunting reminder of the prices paid. "Emily!" she called out, desperation rising in her throat like bile. "Where are you?" As she moved forward, vibrant swings creaked softly in the gentle breeze, while the merry-go-round spun lazily, churning with memories of laughter long gone. But the joy felt distorted, twisted, as if each playful memory was laced with a hidden dread. "Mommy!" the voice drifted to her, the tender call like a lifeline thrown into the chaos. Claire turned, eyes wide as she followed it like a beacon guiding her home. There, in the distance, stood a figure at the center of a flickering light, a child with golden hair and a fragile outline dancing in and out of reality. "Emily!" Claire shouted, fearless now. She charged through the playground, weaving through the shadows that threatened to consume her, determined to reach her daughter. Just as she ran, the shadows surged, slithering toward her, inching closer. "You shouldn't be here." A voice bellowed, guttural and sharp, echoing the warning of darkness that had taunted her before. But she couldn't stop. "I'm coming." With every breath, Claire became more resolute. The shadows tried to envelop her, taunting, whispering doubts that raked along her soul like claws. "Stay with us forever." They hissed, terror clawed at her heart, but the pull of her daughter's voice thrust her forward. She reached out, willing herself to break free from the grip of shadows, prepared to face whatever horror awaited. "Mommy!" Emily's bright eyes flickered in response, sparkling against the pervasive gloom. But the child's face held an unexpected familiarity. Before Claire could draw closer, something stirred within the shadows, a monstrous form that recoiled at her approach. "Join her, Claire. Save her, or lose everything." The shadows howled in chaotic frenzy, as if battling the outreach of Claire's heart. "Don't listen!" Claire screamed, thrusting her hands up, as if every word could bend reality. "Your lies can't win." With one last surge of determination, Claire smashed through the choking darkness. She reached Emily, who glowed with a radiant light, shimmering amidst the encroaching shadow. "Let us get out of here." "Mommy!" Emily cried, but her eyes turned hollow, the warmth dimming momentarily. "You must choose." Confusion gripped Claire. Hadn't she already chosen? "I choose you," Claire declared fiercely. "I choose to fight for you, to bring us back." The ground trembled, a rumbling echo of the conflict swirling around them. As shadows lashed out, Claire wrapped her arms around Emily, feeling the warmth of her daughter's small form against her. In that precious moment, the shadows began to writhe, recoiling, shrieking in frustration. "You will regret this. You will pay the price." The light pulsated around them, cradling them in its embrace as Claire brought forth every ounce of love she had for her daughter. It surged, a defiant wave washing over the darkness, illuminating the space as if morning had finally broken through a long, relentless night. "Together," Emily whispered, her small hand squeezing tighter around Claire's. The shadows devolved into incoherent screams, desperately clawing at the brilliant light. But they could not breach the protective aura forged by a united heart. The playground, once twisted and strangled by despair, began to shift and break apart, collapsing into itself with a cacophony of anguished cries. "Hold on!" Claire shouted, desperately navigating away from the collapsing void. The brilliance expanded, swallowing the shadows, pushing them back like a receding tide, and then silence, the world around them calmed. Gone were the shadows and torment, only a soft glow remained, cradling them in warmth. As the light faded away, they found themselves back at the threshold of the warehouse. It felt different now, lighter, almost welcoming. Claire stumbled to her feet, pulling Emily close, her heart bursting with relief. "Mommy?" Emily looked up at her, eyes crystalline with innocence. "Did we win?" Claire hugged her daughter tightly, a wave of emotion crashing against her. "Yes, sweetheart. We did. We're home." As they stepped out together into the dawn, the warehouse towered gently behind them, whispering of stories left behind. But now, it felt harmless, a monument to lessons learned, a reminder of strength forged in darkness. "Mommy, can we play now?" Emily beamed, her laughter ringing through the morning air like music. Claire chuckled, ruffling her daughter's hair. "Absolutely. It's time to make our own beautiful memories." Together, hand in hand, they walked forward, leaving behind the shadows, embracing the sunlight ahead. The nightmares had been conquered, and the chains of the past shattered, offering hope for a brighter tomorrow. But before they walked away completely, Claire turned one last time, her heart resolute. "Your rules are no match for love," she shouted into the void. With that, they moved on, filled with the promise of hope, friends, and family forever united against whatever darkness may come again. You need to subscribe now to make sure you don't miss more exclusive stories like this. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your love. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Real fans make it happen.